All right, if we can start to grab our seats a couple minutes after. All right.
Just to kick off this next portion, we've talked about a lot of statistics and data, and we brought a bunch of copies of this. If you don't have a copy of this, this is the latest McGraw-Hill Smart Market Report on BIM. There's sections on here broken out by geographic area, territories of the United States, but it just gives a good overview of where the industry's at for adoption, what people are doing, success stories, interviews with people in the industry that have been down this path and what their experiences are. So if you'd like a copy of this, if you don't have one, Kathy has them in the back, and you're more than welcome to take one. We probably have about 50 of them. So this is a good informational piece on where the industry's at right now and why, or maybe in some cases, why not BIM. So these are free in the back.
Thank you. All right. So everyone's something to drink, something to nosh on. Still head nods. All right. I'm determined to pull at least a few words out of you. Just if I got to drag them out, I will. All right. So how the disciplines are utilizing. So software being used, okay? Might be a little bit more interesting. So software, you got Revit Architecture, Revit MEP, Revit Structure, and there is just Revit, okay? Now, Revit is found in the building design suites, the Premium and Ultimate. It basically combines all three, the Architecture, Structure, and MEP, into one program, okay? Very nice. I will fully admit I enjoy just Revit. Having to swap between programs isn't always a lot of fun, so they got smart and threw them all into one. So Revit itself, how many here know what Revit is? I got hands. That's awesome. Great. Hey, I'll take whatever I can get. So Revit is a 3D modeling software. It's a parametric software. Or parametric, it's just relationship. That's all the parametric is. It's detailing relationships. Because there's relationships between everything, correct? There's a relationship between the floor and the wall. There's a relationship between the door and the wall, right? Because you don't ever, you're not going down the road and all of a sudden you see a door standing by itself, do you? I hope not. But there's relationships between everything. Revit understands those relationships, and it helps. It's a tool to help and assist with building that information. So it is part of the process. It's not BIM, okay? Revit is a software that will assist in the BIM process, okay? So I get it a lot. I want that, the Revit BIM software. I want the BIM software. Again, I don't have any. I've got tools that can help you in that process. I can help you get there. So all three, if you have the individual softwares, perfectly fine if you do, they all interact with each other to come together and create an entire model. It has all the information available. So coordination of, was there a question? All right. I'm hearing things. We're good. Sorry. So coordination of the disciplines. Before I jump into that, I'm going to pull up an MEP model that I have. I just want to show you a little bit of information. If you have not seen it, just want to throw it out there so that you do see it a little bit. All right. So this is, and I apologize for having my back to you. I normally would never work like this. But we all know technical difficulties happen, correct? So this was actually a live project I assisted on. This was a refit for chemical processing. It's for a pharmaceutical company. So they purchased a building and they wanted to refit it for their processes. There's a lot of piping going on there, right? That would not be a whole lot of fun doing just 2D drawings of. So I have a model of it, okay? Now, to me, this was a blast. I loved doing it. Not everybody loves doing it. I enjoy that process very much. It's exciting to me to see it all come together. If I can pan around, there's all kinds of different pipes, systems coming through here. I have everything kind of color coordinated so I know what's what. I can follow it through my building. A lot of people ask, what about the information? You know, I am going to get into the eye, but in a model, where's the information? Where am I going to find that at? So I'm going to come around here, and I might have a little bit of preference for these guys because they look like Legos to me. Now, who as a kid doesn't like Legos, right? I love Legos. So these kind of look like Legos. So I'm going to grab it, and it is an air handling unit, and it's a specific train air handling unit. There are a lot of supply companies that are building their components within Revit. Some of them are putting them out on their own website. Some of them you can find in Autodesk Seek. So it's not necessarily generic. It doesn't have to be generic. If what you're being used is out there, drop it into your model. More and more companies are doing this because they realize, well, if they can put it in my model, I actually have a better chance of getting it spec'd. Believe it or not, it's been happening more and more. So I have companies that are doing it, and there are companies that aren't doing it, and I'll get a call, you know, I need this specific component. Where can I find it? I tell them, go to their website. If it's not there, ask them. Ask them if they have models of, you know, whatever they're supplying. You do a water heater. Do you model your water heaters? What information do you have? Do you have CAD drawings? Because even if I have a CAD drawing, I can model it up rather quickly and drop it in. But if they have it, you know, 9 times out of 10, they're going to give it to you. If they don't have them, ask them, well, when are you going to have them? I want to, you know, put it in my project. If they don't know you need it or you want it, they're not going to do it unless they have to. Sometimes there is a push. Never hurts to ask, right? So at least ask. So for information, I'm going to pull this out so it expands without docking. I have 2 levels of information. Anything I change in this first dialog box is just about this component itself. So I've got places for serial numbers, because everything has a serial number on it, right? And you may need that information. If I can grab this piece of equipment and know what serial number it is, awesome. But what about getting into the mechanical of it? So I have electrical loads. What's the electrical loads? What's the requirement? How am I going to meet that? If I don't know what I need, how do I know I'm getting it in there? So if you're working in the field and you need information, even on your iPad, if you can click that element and have information pop up about it, is that useful? I got head nods. All right. It is useful. You don't have to go digging for the information. If you can pull up the O&M for that, that's going to be helpful, right? Because if there's clearances that has to be around this, you want that information. And if you have that at your fingertips instead of, oh, I got to run back to the trailer, look up this O&M, hopefully you've got it. Thumb through it. Where's my information? If you've got it right there in the field, that's going to save you how much time? And again, time is dealing with money. So we want to be able to make the best of what we have. So all this information is programmed in there. You can get into, identity data, getting into the model, the manufacturer, getting into all that information. And you can add any information. We talked about getting into, 400, 500 level model. Getting into that 500, yeah, that's what the owner wants in there, that information. Being able to create that placeholder, drop it in there, and their information's in there. Okay? Seems very complicated, very hard. It isn't. Maybe a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge on it, but you can always gain that knowledge. You can always gain that understanding. Okay? So it is not impossible. It's not beyond anybody's reach. I'm going to close out all this information. So all these pieces and parts has that information in it. Okay? And this is just a real quick skim of what is in Revit. And I like the MEP side. I think a lot more people can relate to the complexity that goes into dealing with MEP, right? Because there is a lot to it, knowing where everything's going to run. And knowing it's actually going to fit in your building. Having that confidence. I had, working with someone, they had a model. They had an architectural model. Ended up, the MEP was not modeled. And certain tank sizes they had did not fit into their mechanical room. Yeah, that can cause an issue. That can definitely cause some problems. If they had that tank modeled, they would know, I need X amount more feet because it's not going to fit. And I need it to fit. This is important. So having that information, knowing every piece of equipment is going to be in there is very valuable. All right, so that, like I said, just a little snippet of Revit itself. So if we come back, and it's going to start right at the front. Let me scroll through a bit here. Hit those. All right. So actually beyond all of, so any, I guess, specific questions on how disciplines are using it? Yes. Let me get you a mic. They need it recorded.
I'm Nick Haglin from My Name's Kimball. Quick question. You just showed us the Revit model of the MEP.
Yes.
So that's a purchased software,
Revit is, yes.
and that costs approximately?
Sales in the back could help with price. I don't deal anything with pricing. I'm all technical. My sales people in the back, let me get them a mic. Actually, Kathy can come right on up front.
I'm just going for the reality of that software being available in the field, and if not, what people are able to use in the field in the real-time sense, and what information they get with that.
The pricing is going to, it really is depending on what your firm, if you currently have a license of something, because you can upgrade usually a lot of the seats you have. Revit MEP, it usually is better to come into a building design suite premium, which then you get all three Revit disciplines, because cost-wise it's probably less expensive for you. Now, I don't want you to get total sticker shock on it. This is just what it is as full price. It will depend on each individual firm, but they usually start around $6,800 and go up to $15,000, depending on what version you need. There's three different levels. There's premium and ultimate are two different levels. The ultimate being it includes the Novice Works Manage. And then whether it's a standalone or a network license is going to be more expensive. So that's just kind of a ballpark figure. You know, there's always promotions. Autodesk always has promotions. So, you know, it will change, you know, and so, but that kind of gives you an idea of what it is. Revit MEP alone is probably about $6,000.
But how does that fit into the actuality of being able to use that in the field? I mean, we don't spend $6,800 on software for individuals.
Oh, I see what you mean. Do you understand what she means?
You want to use the software. Yeah, if you wanted to take this out into the field and use it, that would definitely be a viewer. There's other softwares that are available specifically for viewing. You probably use Navisworks Freedom, which is free. That's free software you can download from Autodesk that you can get in there, visualize what's going on, and I believe it has markup capabilities now that you could actually go through and, you know, you find an issue, put a markup on it, send it off. You know, you can have 5 people mark up on a NWD file, a Navisworks file, pull them all into one, and have everybody's notes into one file again. There's lots of different tools that are available. Not every one of them costs, you know, X amount of dollars. There are free tools that are available.
Yeah. These are the full software. So it's not, I'm sorry, it was not about field personnel. So it would be a little different, yes.
Well, Lisa, you gotta let them know that for you to have the Freedom Viewer, which is free, the only way that you can actually see that file is if it's developed by a full license version. You cannot manipulate that file. You can only just do little PDF stuff like that, maybe take some dimensions here and there, but you will not be able to manipulate that file if you just have the Freedom Viewer. You need the actual full managed version to be able to manipulate that file and to bring in other models and basically refresh that model. So it's kind of it's definitely the tool to have if you're in the construction industry. Even on the architectural engineering side, we are required to have it. So it's in Revit, there is a clash detection already built into Revit. I don't care for it. I haven't found anyone so far that cares for that. Navisworks is the way to do clash detection.
So on top of that, just a little explanation about Navisworks itself. There is 3 flavors to Navisworks. There is Navisworks Freedom, which is the free viewer, that, as I stated, does take an NWD file. There are different file formats. An NWD has everything pulled together already. Everything is held right in that file. Okay? There is Navisworks Simulate, which the only functionality that Navisworks Simulate does not have is the automated clash detection. Every other tool is available within Navisworks Simulate. Navisworks Manage has the automated clash detection. So there are different functionalities in the 3 versions. If you are getting, as I stated, a specific NWD, because there is an NWC and NWF. I was going to forget one of them. So there are different file types available. For Freedom, it is that NWD. You have to have that, which again has everything collaborated right in it. You get a full file where the other ones are not full files. Okay? But having Simulate and Manage, you can work with those. Okay?
Lisa, Norm Brady with ABC. In your experience, who takes the lead in the coordination process and in having the software? Is that typically on the architectural side, the GC? Because a lot of these issues relate to the mechanicals. Who does it vary? Or is it typical that one entity or another is going to lead the process?
It can vary, but it's strongly recommended. And also in some of the BIM execution plans, it's stated the architectural or MEP have to have it so they can do the coordination. but also CMs, construction managers. They need to have that software also to make sure that everything is coming together as it should. So it is on both sides. You know, and again, some execution plans that I've seen, it's specified. The architect will have this software. CM will have this software. So it's sometimes mandated who's doing what. So it can go many different directions.
Thank you.
Hi,
Is it up?
come on.
Yep.
Hello? Hello? There it is. I'm Jeff with Cal Blue, and in regards to what you asked and some of the other questions coming up there, one thing about the Autodesk software is that the big thing for Autodesk is that it's scalable. And so what you're asking, everybody in here may have a different scenario that's going to lead you to a different part of the software package or a different Autodesk tool. So it could be something, depending on what you need to do in the field, it could be something as easy as a free tool to where somebody else may need to go to Navisworks because they need the collision detection. So that's where we come into play, where I would come and talk to you, find out exactly what it is you need to do to get your job done and be able to find the solution for you in regards to whether, if you're in the field and you're trying to do that, if you just need to access something and not manipulate any data, whether you need to mark it up, red lines, things like that. So a lot of that can be done in a free tool, whereas you need to get really involved in something, then you're starting to look, $1,600 and up for the tool, depending on what you need to do. So, any other questions in regards to that, the Autodesk software and the tools available? Thanks, Lisa.
So there are many options that are available. And again, just as Jeff stated, it really depends on what you're doing, what your focus is. That's, this may be more general than what it should be, what I'm doing right now, but everybody is different. What you're doing is going to be totally different from what he's doing. So it's getting some information, and then, we can sit down and have a conversation. And drill down into what exactly it is that you need. Okay, so don't ever hesitate. You have a question, ask. Even outside, if you don't want to ask it in here, fine, don't ask it in here. I have a stack of business cards somewhere in the back. Kathy can get you a business card. Yep, she's got my business cards. We can have that question. And again, I'm definitely on the technical side of it. I'm not sales. We have Jeff and Kathy for that. So grab one of us, okay? Ask us the question. We typically don't bite. Usually. So, all right? Getting a couple of giggles, yes. Actually.
Ruben Ramos, R&R Mechanical Services. So is there trainings offered for different particular software versions? For example, a firm like ours, where we wouldn't be getting too much into the design build, but more where a project is already kind of design and whatnot. But I could see us for the need to have a model for being able to see like clash detection and whatnot. Is there different trainings on the software, different software available that we can get, or?
Yes, we offer pretty much any kind of training class you would need. We typically have training classes scheduled throughout the month. That is, anybody can jump into those classes, but we can also customize. We can customize a class to anything you need, basically. I believe in the books that were handed out, there is information on classes. So yes, we do the training. I do the training on that software. So we would have that conversation. We'd sit down. What is it that you need to know? What information? How do you need to use the software? We can come up with a specific outline just for you and your company and train you on it. So yes, we do offer that training.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? take that as a no. All right, so coordination. Coordination is always a big thing, right? Things aren't coordinated, you got a pipe going through a duct, which is never good. So coordination, and this is specifically desktop integration. So this isn't using iPads and all that kind of stuff. So this is in office. So viewing, analyzing, and coordinating your model. It's using Navisworks software. So this is where you're going to bring all those Revit models or MicroStation. I've been on MicroStation. Yeah, that's about all I'm going to say on that one. So I've been there. Navisworks is a pretty fascinating program in itself because it's a non-authoring program. Okay, it doesn't author anything. Navisworks aggregates, I think it's up over 50 different types of software or 50 different file types natively. It will just bring them in and pull it together, okay? So it is specific for coordination, collaboration, pulling everything together so you do have one model. That's ultimately what you need to do clash detection, right? You got to have your architectural, structural, your MEP, your whatever. You need everything brought together in one so you have the full package, and that's what Navisworks does. Okay, and again, I talked about the three different levels. There's the viewer, there is simulate, which again, the only difference between simulate and manage is that automated clash detection. Okay? So to view, analyze, and coordinate your model, you're going to use Navisworks. You're going to take that into Navisworks Manage, finding your conflicts. I actually had someone yesterday mention using Revit for clash detection. No. There is technically an interference checker within Revit, okay? It'll find interference. It'll find interference for everything. At some points you do have a pipe going through a wall. That's not a bad thing, okay? That's what it was supposed to do. It's going to find everything. There's no way to set tolerances, on your piping. If you have to have insulation and you need, 3-inch clearing around every pipe, you can set that up within Navisworks to do that. And if there's anything encroaching in on that tolerance, you're going to find that, and you'll know that there's an issue. So Navisworks is well above what Revit can do, okay? The simulate can also, you can find clashes in there, but it's a manual process. Okay. Excuse me. It's you basically walking through. And I've done it. I've found all kind of amazing stuff just getting and walking through a model, which I have a model, I'm going to pull that up. But being able just to get up into the ceiling, seeing the duct in the pipe, and you've got a duct going right through, whatever, a steel beam. Yeah, no, that's probably not going to work very well. And so you can visually just walk through and find the issues, tag them, save a viewpoint, print it out, and yeah, this is a problem. Send it off to someone. You need to fix all this stuff. You can do it in Simulate. Manage has the automation where you can set tolerances and all that information and have it print out a full report. So once you decide, or once you find, I've got lots of issues, or just a few. Sometimes there's just a few issues. You can assign them and then resolve them. Okay, even within Navisworks, you can transform or move the element. I know I need to move this 6 inches north in order to get that clearance. I can mark that up, send it up to who has the Revit model, and here you go, move this 6 inches, and we're good. So that's getting into using both Revit and Navisworks. And there is a switchback feature that if you have both Navisworks and Revit, Some people do. If you're getting the design suites, you have both of them. Finding it within Navisworks will open it within Revit, take you right to it. Now, they still need to improve that tool a little bit, but it is available. Right now, it'll take you right to a huge mess. And you got to figure out which one it is, but it gets you really close and makes it a little bit easier to find where it is and to manipulate it. So these tools are integrated. They work together, okay? From here, reporting and communication. So if you are finding conflicts, you're going through that process, getting a spreadsheet of it. What are the issues? Getting a snapshot. What does it look like? Am I just a couple of inches off, or am I just way in the middle of nowhere? You need to find that information. Being able to create a report and send that out. Again, someone may not have the full version of Navisworks, but they can use Freedom and see it, okay? It's available specifically for that, being able to get in and view files and information. You may have an animation set up, as you're, constructing something, as you're bringing a crane in. I've got stuff that's in the way. You can create that animation, show it, send it off to somebody. This needs resolved now because, in X amount of days, we're going to do this and it's not going to work. We need to figure it out. So having those tools that are available, you don't need a supercomputer to run Navisworks. You don't. Revit is, you need some meat there to run Revit. I'll fully admit that. Navisworks, you don't, okay? So it's within people's grasps, and sometimes it's just getting that understanding, okay? So there is definitely a workflow that is available, and to help everybody who's at whatever point in this process out, okay? Questions, thoughts at that point? Okay, no questions. We're good. All right. So the I in BIM, the infamous I. Everyone wants to know about the I, right? The I in BIM. So information. Information is crucial to every step of the process. If you did not have information, you could not build, correct? You wouldn't know what is supposed to go where. So that's the same for owners. They need information. And that is the I in the information. Reason, one of the biggest reasons right now is it's being owner driven. The owner needs this information. As I stated, they're going to have this building, 50 years, 100 years, however long it stands. There's information they need to know, plain and simple. If I have that information, how much better can I manage my facility? Owners are starting to get this understanding, and owners are pushing it more and more. So a lot of that mandate is coming from owners. Good or bad? I've been reading some interesting posts on whether that's good or bad, and a lot are starting to say it's bad because owners don't fully understand. And it's a possibility that they don't. Help them. What's wrong with helping them and getting them that understanding? If there's a process that you do and they don't understand, let them know the process. What is it about? Why? What is it that they want? What's their ultimate goal? Because that's what this is about, right? This is their building and what they want. Let's help them get it as easy as possible and assist you in that process too. So a lot of words there. Facility management, getting into CAFM systems. More and more facility management software that's available is able to link directly to a Revit model. When I heard that, it definitely piqued my interest. Because if I have a model that has information in it that the owner can use, well, what else can I do with it? This is going to help with space planning, space moving, being able just to facilitate moving different departments throughout a building. It happens. Been through a few moves, not a whole lot of fun, but they happen. Maintenance, being able to maintain. If you do have that squeaky, fan belt above your head, someone calls in, hey, I'm in room, 183, I got a problem. Well, they can pull up room 183, see everything that's in there. Instead, they're going to come out, bring their nice tall ladder. I actually just experienced this yesterday. There was a problem. They brought their ladder, set it up, pop in a ceiling tile, seeing what's up there. Maybe it's a belt, maybe it's a filter, maybe something needs changed. Finding out, what filter do I need? Going back, seeing if they have it. If they do have it, great. Then they got to come back again, pop that same ceiling tile, and fix it. They can pull it up and say, last time this was maintained was, 3 months ago. It's time. This is the filter I need. This is the belt I need. I have everything in stock. They go out once. They make that trip once, and they're done. So you're saving a lot of time and energy in that maintenance. And owners are seeing that value. That's important to them. They're pushing it majorly because of that, being able to deal with that information. So there are different delivery methods available. But any questions on that portion? Wasn't a big portion. And again, the question of who's putting the I in, who's putting that information in. It's a conversation that needs to be had up front. Owners who are educating themselves and knowing what they want, they need to decide who's doing what, who's responsible for what. The guy putting in that AHU in the field is going to have or should have information that I need on that. So if they had an iPad, or even going back to the job trailer, typing in a computer, this is the serial number, this is the model number, this is this information. If they have that information right on hand, they can drop that information in. But it's a conversation that needs to be had up front. Okay? And if they're not asking you, or if it's not mentioned, you guys bring it up. You guys ask them, who is doing this? Right? There's nothing wrong with asking the question, is there? The more questions you ask, that's going to spur them on and why are they thinking? How are they thinking? Are they not thinking? Are they totally missing the boat? Which is possible. So you want to assist them as much as you can. Yes, sir.
Yeah, a couple of questions, I guess, for you. One, how is BIM connected with matters such as green building and also lean construction? Is there any tangible link to those as well that sort of gets built into the system or the process of building the facility as a part of the overall desire by the client? And then secondly, if you took a snapshot of the world of construction today, who's taking the BIM message to the client, to the consuming end of it? Does your company, Cal Blue, have a regular sales force out talking to clients, whether they're ready to build now or they're thinking about it, or just routinely going there and saying, hey, we've got a new product out here that I think you'd be interested in? Or is it mainly the design community or design build contractors that are going out to clients and bringing the message of BIM in the related products to help them understand better? Because it seems like a lot of the future growth in BIM is going to be driven by the client who is smart and knows what this can do for the company long term, that will pull it as opposed to being pushed on by everybody. So those two questions.
Okay, I'll tackle the first right now. There is a lot of connection between using, modeling softwares, getting into lead credits, energy analysis. There are direct links. I want to say Green Building Studio is another Autodesk. There is a direct link that you can send your models up there and run that energy analysis. So being able to determine, do I have too much glass on this side of the building? Is it going to require, X amount of more to cool it than if I reduced it or put a sunshade or even rotated the building by 5 degrees? Yeah, it's a lot to rotate a building, but there are tools definitely available. A lot of them, when you're on subscription, I believe, everything's available for you to use. So it is trying to help push in that direction, getting those lead credits and being more eco-friendly, being more green. So yes, it's definitely assisting in that process. For the second question, there's a lot of different ways, I guess. Owners they're hearing the buzzwords, okay? They're hearing BIM. Well, what's BIM? And it's interesting because, they may ask an architect, well, what's this BIM? What can I use it for? And a lot of architects don't want to say anything. At least that's in previous. It's starting to change a little bit. They don't 100% know how to discuss it, how to talk about it. They don't want to approach because it's just going to look like, my hand's in the pocket and I want to keep my hand in there. I'm going to take all I can. That's not necessarily the angle that they're on. I would at least hope they're not. But it may look like that. So architects are shied away a bit from discussing it with owners, trying to push that envelope. Owners, they do come and talk to us. We help them out as much as we can. We give them the information we know. Do we have a regular clientele that we go to? You'd have to talk to the sales. You'd have to talk to Jeff or Kathy on that one. I don't know.
How about Autodesk? Do they have a national program to educate clients, industries, and things like that?
I'm going to say yes. Autodesk is definitely pushing it. They're going to push it. I know it's in December this year, Autodesk University. There's a lot of information, a lot of owners, a lot of large facilities are going to that just to learn for themselves what BIM is, getting that information so they can start learning and push that direction. There's definitely some motive on Autodesk's side to do that. I'll leave that there. I hope I answered your question. Okay. Any other questions? Thoughts, comments, concerns? Just keep rolling. I got some smiles, okay. Trying to do what I can. Make sure you guys are all with me here, right? Yes, verbiage, all right, even better. All right, delivery methods. Prints. You gotta have prints, right? Prints are very important. That's, as we stated, those are legal documents. You're still getting prints. As Cal Blue started out, I'm looking for Kip, as a reprographics firm. It's a word we don't necessarily like to use anymore, but that's what we started out as. We were a blueprinter. Print stacks of drawings, stacks of, sets that would get passed around. Not so much anymore, but they're still required. You still have to have that legal document. 3D models. More and more it's being requested. Owners want a 3D model. Owners will have it stated they are the owner of that model. That model's theirs. Because they want to take that and either continue to modify with updates. They do an addition, they want it on there. okay? They're changing something. They want that information in there. They don't want to have it redone every time, which doesn't make a lot of sense, correct? So they want to continue to use that model. So they are the owner of that information. So they're wanting more and more. They want that model, okay? And it used to be like pulling teeth to get an architect to let go of a model. No. That's my intellectual property. I'm not letting go of that. That's, that's what it is, and you're going to have to deal with it. The owners are stepping up and saying, nope, we want that. So that's definitely conversations that need to be had. There's a lot of communication with BIM. Has anybody noticed that? It requires increased communication the whole way around. Mobile devices. So again, I've talked about, having the iPad, being able to put a model on here and go out into the field and to use it, to manipulate, to see that information. Yeah, it's helpful. It's helpful being able to take this out there. This is a lot lighter than a set of 30 by 42 prints, right? Even 50 sheets, that's a pretty good size set. Try to fold that up, tuck that under your arm. It gets heavy after a while. This is pretty light. I can sling this around pretty simple. It has a nice little accessory pack. I can hold on to it. I got a little clip. I can clip it on my belt if I wanted to. I can carry this around all day instead of a set of drawings. So there are different requests, okay? Even laptops. I can lug around this laptop if I needed to. Definitely not an issue. So there are requirements for being mobile. BIM-enabled CAFM. We've been discussing some CAFM. FM Systems is one that we partner with. I know for a fact that FM System connects directly to a Revit model. We've developed some templates that can be quickly applied to any model that will input information the owner wants. If the owner needs extra information that's not supplied on components, you can create a template and just apply it to that model. It'll put that placeholder in, and all you have to do is fill it out. Now, you don't have to fill that out in Revit. On the FM Systems, there is a specific dashboard just on any laptop, even an iPad. You can pull it up on your iPad, select that piece of equipment. Well, that serial number, this piece of equipment just got swapped out. This is the new serial number. I can do that right off of an FM Systems dashboard. I don't have to be a Revit expert, okay? So that information, again, is very important. And being able to use that in the field for any maintenance guy, any maintenance personnel that you have, being able to have access to that is very beneficial for them. Dealing with CAFM, getting into space management. Space management is very important. I've learned quite a bit about hospitals and their space management. It really kind of blows my mind, the requirements every year that they have to deal with Medicaid, Medicare and Medicaid. Every year they have to report their square footage. From my understanding, what they used to do, they would hire someone with a clipboard and a tape measure to literally go and measure square footage. That takes weeks. Every year it has to be reported. What if they had a model, and of course, it has to be an accurate model, that in a schedule, in a matter of seconds, they can get the exact square footage? How much is that saving them? So, I mean, that right there, having that understanding, that just, a couple of facilities that we work with, it's mind-boggling the time that we can save them just by having a model that can report that information.
Now that you mentioned space management, in regards to that, what is the likeliness of point clouds integrated with BIM involved with surveying buildings and sites and encompassing and integrating that information into a Revit model, BIM model, Navisworks model?
That integration, that's getting pretty fascinating because it's getting a lot easier. There is a new software out, I want to say they just released it this year, called Recap. What you can do is take pictures of this room, standing in each of your corners, taking pictures high and low, stitch them together, and have a point cloud. Pull that into Revit, and right off of that, if I'm going to build a closet, build it right in there. So that integration is starting to become seamless, that it's being used more and more. Because if you can have, take an RC helicopter, and there's, I think they demonstrate this on their website. Took an RC helicopter and went around a building. Again, varying heights. The more pictures, the more points you have to stitch it together, the better that model's going to be. And it's going to be accurate scale-wise. So being able to fly that around, take pictures, stitch that together, and right from that, you can start to apply walls to faces. It understands those points, creates the planes, and you can model right on top of it. So it's becoming more and more seamless to be able to use that.
Am I on? All right.
Yeah.
Kind of following up on that, it sounds expensive. Is there an additional cost? And what do you typically see to go do a point cloud like that?
Say that one more time. Right, what a point cloud is doing laser scanning, being able to set up laser scans that will take existing conditions. Now with Recap, it's using photos. But before Recap, like I said, brand new software that it's out there. They're taking existing conditions and being able to manipulate off of that. And to be honest, your question just totally left my mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just wondering about the additional cost of doing a point cloud in an existing condition like that.
There will be, of course, a cost. I don't know exactly what the cost is, and Kip wants to say something, so I'm not expressing something well.
What happens is an owner wants to capture an existing space for either archival purposes or renovation purposes. There's a scanner. It's 3D. It sits in the middle of the room. It scans all the walls, gives a readout, and that readout is called a point cloud. So what owners have to do is they have to decide if it's more cost effective to do that or hire an architectural firm to create that existing condition. So it's either or. There's an additional cost. There's firms out there that do it, but that's what a point cloud is. When you hear that reference, that means somebody's come in, scanned this room with a 3D scanner. It's much like a digital surveying device that scans the room and creates what's called a point cloud that can be integrated imported into Revit and then created and then turned into a functional Revit model. Sometimes it's advantageous to have that data. Sometimes it's just more effective to redraw the existing space from scratch. So that's kind of what a point cloud is. I don't know about infrared. I'm not sure exactly the technology platforms that it does it on. But I can get, for example, Lisa's mentioned Recap. 3D scanning for existing conditions, and they do this a lot in mechanical rooms because they're very complex and it cuts time to recreate drawings and so forth. Those point clouds have gone from, and I'm going to just use round numbers for example, 5,000 points in a point cloud to 20 million points in a point cloud. So 3D scanning is almost becoming photorealistic. And that's how fast this technology is taking foot to capture existing conditions and so forth to make a BIM a viable delivery method for not only new construction, but renovations as well.
Go past the wall, let's say if there's piping and electrical wiring in here, does it go, isn't that where the infrared technology comes in, is to be able to go through almost like an x-ray, go through the wall and identify what might be behind
I'm not
it?
familiar with that.
Okay.
It may be available, but what they do is they'd scan this room and this room on the other side of the wall separately and then put them together.
Okay.
Hi again, it's Benjamin Moore from IDS. We're currently working, Matt, to answer your question, we're currently working with the University of Michigan on a project that is utilizing the point clouds. We actually have a local company here for you guys, Niederveld. Is anyone here from Niederveld? Good company. They do the point clouds for us. They've come down, they scanned it, and then taken that point cloud and then put it into Revit. Just like they are describing. But it is a bit costly. I don't know if it was just because of this particular project. I'm going to say no, because of my past experience with it. But it can be for, just to give you an idea, there was 3 floors, about 30,000 square foot per floor. And it was close to $100,000 just for the scanning and to put it back into Revit for us. So now that was a shared expense, a little bit through the contractors and through the also through our company as well. So it wasn't straight 100,000 out of just one person's pocket, but it can be expensive. But it is definitely a time-saving tool, because if not, we would have had man-hours out there to go out and pop ceiling tiles, so on and so forth. And by this being in a research lab, we did not have that option. They shut it down for a small period of time, and then they went in and they did the scan real quick. It was done. So sometimes it's not even an option to go out and do field research. So just give you an idea.
Any other questions? Okay. Parametric design capabilities of the BIM process, it does enhance the owner's ROI ultimately, the owner's process and the ROI on their entire facility management from design through construction. Because that's, processes start, once they get the first sketch on the napkin, wherever they started from, that's, they need to see that process right from the beginning and get that return going. So asset management. Asset management is very important. Some of the experiences I had are pretty interesting. Because one place I was at, they'd moved computers so many times, they actually lost computers. They're there somewhere. They have no idea where it's at, though. Someone might have walked off with it. They don't know. They just don't have that information. So being able to tag and monitor and find all the assets in their buildings, from computers to chairs to tables to everything you can think of, that asset management is very important. So tracking and management of building assets, again, it's very critical. Thoughts. Actually, almost at the end here. Almost thought I'd get a cheer. All right. So questions on that short portion? All right. Some useful materials. There are lots of information out, as I said, lots of information. Some of the books that I have up here, BIM and Construction management, proven tools, methods, and workflows. I have a copy of that if you'd like to peruse it, and I also have the BIM handbook, guide for BIM for owners, managers, designers, engineers, and contractors. So this information is out there, okay? These are just a couple that I've used, studied them, gained understanding for myself. The tools are out there, okay? You know, CalBlue can be a tool. We can definitely assist with what we know and help you out with that process. AGC's Contractor's Guide to BIM, there's a second edition available. You know, again, a lot of tools. The Smart Market reports, again, we have them in the back if you'd like to get one of them. These tools are available, okay? And then closing up with any extra questions. And I'm going to throw my information up there, Jeff and Kathy's information, so that you have it. It's definitely well before 5. But questions, thoughts, anything that you want to throw out there that is pressing on your minds.
The area of training, utilizing Grand Rapids Community College resources or your resources or things that are going on at colleges and universities. What's the state of training and the establishment of credentials for successful knowledge in BIM and in the use of the tools that are available? What's the state of the art in that?
There's actually a lot of tools. I am not familiar with what GRCC is offering at this time. It's just lack of my own education on that. I do know that there are places that are starting to have that education available, having Revit training available, Navisworks training. There's
like at Ferris or Michigan State or the programs that have construction management schools, is that part of their curriculum to an extent that they can graduate with a high level of performance in BIM and the use of tools?
I would assume yes, but again, that's an assumption. It's a pretty big assumption right now. So I'm not familiar with those programs. We can do some research for you. We can assist in finding out who's doing what. I know there are different trainings available, of course now I'm drawing a blank. I've seen it out there specifically for contractors, different training, BIM management training courses. It's available. It's a matter basically of finding it. If there's something specific you need, we can assist you in finding that.
I'm just thinking
for
the people here that are now thinking, okay, I'm going to get in the game, where I am in already, but I need to figure out how to train my workforce, either existing or future. I know that there is some kind of a credentialing that goes along with some of these things, a level of BIM expertise and Revit, things like that. And it's probably some kind of industry standard, so that if I'm a graduate of some program and I say, well, I'm a certified BIM operator, that it tells somebody who's on the other end of the hiring what that's good stuff, or that's not good enough for our position, or how to build out a BIM department within a contracting firm or architectural or design firm. So I just wondered kind of how the support system for BIM in terms of people and people that are educated and skilled in it, what is developing there? Is that being tracked?
I'm not sure if it's being tracked. I know it's definitely available. Even just on the Autodesk software, there is a professional certification that is available. I'm not going to say a lot. I know Revit, they don't have it on Navisworks. There's Inventor, AutoCAD, 3ds Max. There is that professional certification that is available. It just states that they're competent. They have a certain level of understanding on this software. There are definitely different programs that are out there. Requirement for what I do, I have to have that professional certification. I had to be certified as an instructor. So yeah, there are different trainings available, and I know there's some specifically not guaranteed, specifically geared towards CM, GCs, that kind of. I just don't have that right now. I don't have that information in my hand. So that's my mistake there, not being able to provide that right now.
Right now, the trend is the trade organizations are kind of taking that on and offering certifications in certain trades. One of them, who shall remain nameless, who's a 3-letter acronym, opposite of ABC, is offering some BIM certification opportunities. So the certification process isn't coming from the software providers. It's coming more from the specific trade organizations that are supporting you on your projects on a daily basis.
I do know that the GRCC contact, his name is David Dye, if anybody's interested. He'd be DYE at grcc.edu if any of you like to email him and ask about GRCC offerings.
In regards to, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
In regards to a larger building project and phasing with Revit, is there a good workflow or method? Let's say if you have a 1 million square foot building, you have several different projects going on within the same building that are under different project numbers, and you want everything to eventually reside within the same model for BIM purposes. However, that gets extremely complicated when you're doing multiple different projects and different years and different phases. Is there a good workflow or method for this?
There's a lot of different options that are available. Is that 1 million square foot vertical? Is it just, one floor? And being able to understand where is a good break? Because you're not going to have all that in one model. It's going to be so big, computers can't handle it. So it's having an understanding where is a good break, having those pieces, and being able to pull them together to create one solid, building.
I mean, we're in a trial and error process of this right now, and let's say it's a 10-story building. We may split every level into a different model and then link all of those into a coordination model. But however, you have 3 different projects on the same floor of one model, and we think we have a good process, but I'm just wondering if there's something more efficient. What we're doing is we're doing all the work in one model, then we have separate models split out for the projects, for noting, detailing, et cetera. And it's just the whole phasing process of larger scale buildings gets quite complicated, and I didn't know if there's a set standard for an efficient method to do that.
Nothing specifically set that I know of. I just say for some it's going to be a trial and error. What's going to work best for you? Because what works best for me it doesn't make sense for you. So I'm definitely not the best answer on that, but it is going to be a little bit trial and error. How your company works, how does it want to function, and being able to make the best decisions on that. Which, yeah.
Get some a little more in depth on seeing what you've got going and how. Because we've done projects that are considerable size, and it might be something to take offline. Get some insight.
John, I can speak to the education question you had there, right behind you. The other, Kip had mentioned the other organization with 3-letter acronym does offer a very intense BIM certification. There's 4 different classes. They don't cover just software. They cover the entire BIM process. Very in-depth, very difficult, but when you come out of that, you know BIM very well. Also, one of the people that teaches that also now teaches and is leading at a local education located near the center of the state, very similar to the one we're at now, a program that is aimed towards BIM. So you talk about Ferris and such, they are looking at that and now offering classes to students in the construction management realm. So there is education out there, certifications are out there that give you a designation of CM BIM that then go and is used as a sales tool for clients.
My question is for coordination. If
Yeah.
you have MEPs and say they're running 2009, 2010, 2011, and then your architect's running 2012, is that going to be a hiccup?
There will be a very big hiccup. Revit is not a backwards compatible software. Okay? Yeah. It's a big issue. It is. I fully admit it's a big issue. That is something, again, another discussion that needs to be had right up front. What software you're using and what version you're using. What you start with is what you finish with. Okay? Now, it might be a little bit bold to say that, but my first Revit project that I worked on, the firm I was with, we were in charge of the interior build-out. The company in Canada was in charge of the exterior. All of a sudden, we get their model. We can't do a thing with it. We can't open it. We can't link it. We can't do anything because they upgraded their software, and they did not let us know. So we were forced. We had absolutely no choice in that process. We had to bump up to the latest version. We didn't want to, but we had to. Our hand was forced.
But if you're in the new version and you get an old version, you can pull that in newer. You just can't.
Yeah. Correct. You can go older to newer. You can. I can open 2009 in 14, which is the latest version. You know, if you are on a project and they decide, you know, I'm on 14, they only have 13. If they decide 13 is what they're going to use, on subscription you have what's called previous version use. So I have up to 3 previous versions that I can get. It doesn't cost me anything. I can get a serial number for it, download the software, and run it. So 14 is the latest, so I have 13, 12, and 11. Yeah, 13, 12, and 11 available. Okay, so that there is some flexibility because you do need to be compatible with everybody else. Okay, that forcing somebody's hand like that is not a lot of fun. But again, that's a conversation right up front. You know, before that first project, anything starts on that project. What software we're using and what version. And it's agreed upon that what we start with is what we finish with.
Okay, I think I won the mic first. Well, I guess I don't know how to ask the question, but I'll try to reel it in as best as I can. I'm just sitting here wondering, as a subcontractor, how much do I invest into education, into software and hardware, you know, at this point of the game, and where does it, I guess, kind of where should my boundary be? And maybe this is a question for the CMs and GCs in the room. How much of the weight are they going to take? How much of it is going to be put on the subcontractors? You know, and along with that, I mean, do you have a program that you monitor the people or the subs who are, you know, BIM capable, et cetera? I guess I'm just trying to determine how much, again, time and money I should put into BIM at this point in the game.
Here's how I look at it as a business owner would be, if you're a subcontractor, you purchase a new CNC fabricator to fabricate ductwork. Do you go to all your customers and say, I have to raise your price because I put in this new equipment? No. It's the same thing. It's an investment in your business to become more efficient, to get with the times, be proactive, answer the owner's needs, and be successful. So when you're a sub and you have to buy that new electrical line truck or that mechanical fabrication CNC device, you don't go to your customers and say, I've got to raise your price because I put in this equipment. You just do it as an investment in your future. I think this is no different. This is how this has got to be looked at. This isn't going away. It's an investment in becoming a part of a process that's here to stay. So You have to look at it as if you can't see it as an investment in your future, then maybe it's not right for you, and just to continue doing what you're doing. But ultimately, if you want your company to be successful and be part of the game down the road, this is no different than buying that new CNC machine or replacing those trucks or those vans that you use on your job sites every day.
There we go. Going back to your question about the different versions. That is very important if you're going to work in one model. It's like on our end of it, design-wise, we need to have everybody on the same version. If you're on the construction side of it, you can have the different versions. The workaround to that is Navisworks. So that is a key too, that if everybody doesn't have the same version, you know, it's not a big deal if you're on the construction side. Just you bring all the models into Navisworks and it'll clash detect to them. So it's just something just to know.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Doug Ritz. I'm with AJ Venaklausen Incorporated. My question kind of goes along with his. In a hypothetical situation, an owner wants BIM, comes to us, says, we want BIM, we have to have BIM. You get an architect, engineer to design the whole system on BIM. Now, when we go out to bid, would we allow people without BIM to bid this thing for the owner's sake? Or do they need BIM in order to do this?
Joe from Earhart Construction. I'm actually the BIM Technologies Manager for Earhart, and we do give priority to contractors and subcontractors who have BIM experience. We're working with the client to find out what their final facilities management need is, what their final goal is, and we're building our models. We're actually working on a project that's more build design based. It's going up faster than they're able to document it. And we're actually going through and building this from our models. So we have twice a week submissions where every consultant is responsible to provide their BIM technologies, and it's coming right from fabrication offices in the field right up to the architect. And those meetings are occurring and happening pretty much live time. And everybody has access to the model. So we have 3 coordinators who have Navisworks manage. I'm the one from the GC point of view. And everybody else in the field has Navisworks Freedom. So our electrical leads all know exactly what's happening. And if they see that something in the field had to move, they're notifying their engineer of record, and the model is being updated. So we can literally give the client a model that shows structural steel near refrigerated door panels that are embedded, that you'll have no idea that there's structural steel built into that system using even infrared scanning that are actually in our model for future reference.
So I guess it's as far as you want to take it. If you want to carry the weight for the subs that can't do it, to gain that efficiencies and improve that deliverable to the owner, then no. If you don't want to carry all the weight, improving the process and delivering a better product to the owner, then yeah, you're gonna be a little more specific on what subs can do and can't do.
And that would be basically to an MEP level and structural. There's no sense in painters, obviously, the other trades.
There's certainly trades that carry more weight in terms of efficiency with BIM than others. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, those kinds of trades that have expensive collisions once you get on site, sure. Yep. I've often found that these presentations get good when it turns into a forum, so.
The big thing to remember is BIM is not just the model itself. The I in BIM, the core, the noun in that acronym is information. And it's not just the model, it's all the information that goes with it. So having providers that give you that information, a prime example, I worked on a project in Oklahoma on a military base. They received a shipment of gypsum board, put it all up. It was from China. It was full of salt. All the screws started rusting out. And they were actually able to find that through their facilities management software connected to our model. We didn't put that information in the model, but the client took our model and the sectors and the zones, and they knew what areas needed to be rehabbed immediately by the shipment loads. So it was BIM on steroids, for lack of a better term, because they took our model, brought it over to facilities management, and truly took what was coming in off of those trucks and tied it to the model. So I know that doesn't fall into 4D, 5D, 60, that's almost 70. But it's to the extreme, but there are people who are out there using that. Does that mean that every architect needs to model to that level of detail? I sure hope not. But there are people who are using that information. So it's truly finding out what your client's final need is.
Other questions? Thoughts? Have a mic?
What about the use of barcodes and what is it, RF something, or RF codes as it relates to, as the project goes along, on being able to identify those in the BIM model as to complete projects and stuff like that?
In our experience, in our research, there's not a CAFM solution provider alive right now that isn't going in that direction, either through QR codes and or RF tags. So, you know, that technology is there. It's being implemented. I think that from a construction perspective on delivery of assets to the site, I think there's some use of it on larger scale projects. It's probably going to filter down as it becomes more mainstream, but from a CAFM solution perspective of installing a piece of equipment, ID tagging it, putting that information back in the model so the model understands that that ID tag is on the second floor, room 201, that type of workflow is going to become the norm. There's no question about it. Through QR codes, RF tags, whatever type of both. So absolutely, that's happening as a part of this process.
More questions?
Got any samples to hand out today?
What kind of sample would you like?
Software.
You can always go to,
Those are a free download.
that's what I was going to say, Autodesk.com. There's always a 30-day trial that you can download and give it a shot, see what's available. Okay, the discussion boards. If you do have questions, their discussion boards are awesome. Their discussion boards are very well monitored. Industry people are on those boards. Okay, you've got everyday people who's actually using the software on there answering those questions. Okay, so there is lots of options, lots of different ways you can get information. But no, I don't have any software in hand.
One quick thing, just to recap a little bit from an umbrella perspective maybe, and that is, if you look at what's happened in the industry over the last 3 years, you know, Autodesk specifically, and with all, you know, sales kicks aside or what have you, really did the industry a service by providing everything in suites. And I know there's been some complaints that the subscription costs went up and all that, but what's really starting to happen is that collaborative approach has really been identified by the software providers in providing the tools you need. And that's just going to continue to evolve. I know as an Autodesk reseller, when they purchased all the software that makes the animated movies, we thought, what are they doing? Why? That's out of their portfolio. Well, now all that technology is coming into the virtualization of construction, and through animation and through technical analysis. I think that's one of the things that are going to be a big player going forward, is how all this software has been put into suites, combined with cloud services, the ability for us to for designers, engineers, constructors to be able to do energy analysis and so forth prior to anything being built is going to be a huge value proposition to owners. So those types of things that are coming down the pipe that everybody needs to be ready for, that are happening now, going to happen, are vitally important to being able to be successful in the new world of construction. So don't overlook and keep an eye on what's going on from industry trends, because it'll tell you a lot about what's coming down the pipe. And truthfully, as an Autodesk reseller, when we see everything combined into suites and everything going to the cloud, that really kind of makes us wonder what's in it for us in the future, because the way everything's going to be distributed as part of a package, cloud services and so forth, has an impact on us too. So there's a lot going on between design, fabrication, analysis that really does provide value to the owner, makes your processes more efficient, and allows you to deliver a better product. So BIM's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. There's a lot of value to it. It's not easy to get into. There are complications, but at the end of the day, when this is all said and done, my guess is it'll be a value to not only you, your clients, but the process in general. So, any other questions?
Judd Brood with C2AE. In your 4D timeline, what did you use to develop that animation? Was that in Revit or was that Navisworks?
That was Navisworks.
That was Navisworks,
That
okay.
was done in Navisworks, yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, one of the things that I've noticed in a lot of literature talks about a high level of adoption by small and medium-sized firms. I personally don't get that sense, and I wonder if you could address that, because even in the material you had today, it says small to medium-sized firms are at 76% BIM adoption level. And they also talked about a certain high percentage of contractors being in there. My sense is that it's probably maybe the top 20% of the construction industry has adopted it, has some familiarity with it, maybe bought software. I don't get the sense that, we're almost there with 100%.
I have a saying for that, and people have heard me say this before. With all due respect to everybody, there's a lot of people with their toe in the water telling everybody they're swimming. So when people fill out those forms, they feel it's necessary to say that they can do it. I think that there's I would sum it up in this market as being the architects are doing it. I think the construction firms, truthfully, are getting more out of it from the virtual construction perspective. I think converting an architectural firm from a traditional delivery process to a BIM delivery process is a huge undertaking, especially for the larger ones. And I think that's why the smaller firms have a higher adoption rate, because the Revit process is inherently different than the AutoCAD process. And it puts a tremendous burden on larger firms to re-establish people based on, and we can get into bell curves and all that stuff, but it is a challenge for the larger firms. So my guess is that those smaller firm numbers, adoption rates, probably are true. I think the bigger firms are doing it. I just think that they have a larger challenge in becoming efficient with it. I think this. Well, let's take a project in Kalamazoo right now that we worked on, that all of what I call the larger trades, the MEPs, it was a BIM required project, the WMU, they all contracted it out. They're not doing it themselves. There's a lot of that going on, where those subs that have to answer the call for BIM, they find somebody else to partner with that can do it. So that's going on a lot in the marketplace. I think all of what I would consider the larger CMs based in Kalamazoo, in Grand Rapids for that matter, all have the software tools necessary. However, they're deploying them and implementing them, I think that's a mixed bag. But I think the software is out there. I just think that people aren't implementing it completely, and there's certain reasons why that are justifiable. But I think it's out there. It's just not. it's up to, GRCC and their counterparts have a burden too to provide a concrete message on what they're looking for. And I'm not sure that's not out there either. So until that message gets and it's consistent, we're not going to have a consistent process.
One of the comments that was made early is who pays for it? And what are you seeing in the industry? Who is paying for it? Is it being absorbed, the cost to the architectural and engineering firms, and whether they're passing it on to the client or not? Or are they sharing it amongst the construction team that they put together for the project?
I think that the owners that we've worked with specifically have identified the value in the informational piece, so they're willing to bear a little bit of that cost because they do have such a high cost of ownership after that. So once an owner understands that, yeah, I'm going to pay a subcontractor or a consultant to enter this data and make sure these models are as delivered, the long-term benefit of that 5 years from now when they go to renovate or maintain that building, that value is there. If they don't understand that value, it's a fighting match on who's going to pay for it. I mean, there's no question. I think the architectural firms, in my experience, have kind of gotten over having to charge for it. I think the investment's been made. It's time to move forward. I'm sure they're out there still trying to charge a little extra for BIM services, but the traditional design process, I don't think there's much success in upcharges. It's the data entry where I think there's an enormous opportunity for those that want to participate in that. And in that delivery process, that's where I think that the additional money's going to be made, for sure. And where the value is for the owner as well. So the design process, I don't see a lot of upcharges through there, but from when that handover happens and that data management, data entry, that's where the value is for the owner to get that information in an organized fashion instead of what I call binders and boxes on a skid. So if you can refine that delivery process and improve it and leverage it off BIM and deliver a better product, there's where your extra fees can come in. And you may be able to respond to that. Any other questions?
Can we give our presenter a hand today?
Thank you.